did it back in 2020. And this may not be the stat that Brendan Butterbean Queen wants to hear, but never in the 6 races prior has the pole sitter gone to victory lane. Will it change tonight?
I think there's a good chance it has. We've had 4 pole winners this season go to victory lane. We saw it a couple weeks ago at Langley. We saw it with Brendan Butterbean Queen a little bit earlier on at North Wilkesboro, pole sitter, and went on to win the race. And I think just with how competitive this field has been, there's no shocker that track position has been so important for everybody as we get the 2 to go signal from starter and Brandon Willard. Let's throw down trackside to James Pike.
I talked to a lot of people in the garage this afternoon, Blake, but the most interesting piece of knowledge that I got came from someone that's not even competing in tonight's race, but he's been to victory lane here before in the Cars Tour, that of Daniel Silvestri, the race winner in 2021. He told me, yes, this is a fast track, the pavement's quick, you'd think you wouldn't have to save that much, but there is a little bit of saving involved here under a long green flag run. At Hickory or Florence, you'd save about 50%. Here, you save about 90%. I've heard some drivers say they might try and save a little bit. I've heard some drivers say that with the speed of the pavement, they might just go. So we'll see which camp ends up victorious, but something interesting to think about from someone who's won a lot here in the Cars Tour and in the NASCAR Advanced Auto Pods Weekly Series.
Thank you, James. And Daniel made the comment to me earlier, that was the best race car I've driven in my life, was the car that he went to victory lane here in 2021 over Mike Looney. But as the field doubles up, it looks like we are all set and ready to go here from Dominion as the GXS Wraps pace truck will dive to the safety of the pit lane. Brendan Butterbean Queen and Carson Quapple will lead us to the green flag. And the Cars Tour 125, presented by Napa Auto Parts and Cheney Enterprises, is green. It's going to be a tussle here for the race lead. It was Brendan Queen who just edged out Carson Quapple there at the stripe to complete lap number 1, but they are side by side. Top 3 rows as Quapple may try to make the move by, and contact made for the race lead. Carson Quapple will have it at the stripe that time, and with that, Carson Quapple becomes the first driver in series history to lead a lap in each of the first 7 races.
Coming into the night, he was only 30 laps shy of his full total in 2022, and he's going to add to the slate as he comes to the line to cement the lead off on the outside lane of turn number 4. What a battle early in the going between some of the top contenders in the championship, and Quapple goes to the point.
Bobby McCarty, a car that was so strong here a week ago and I think is going to be a contender. You just feel like all the pieces are starting to fall into place for this RNS Race Cars team as Bobby McCarty now finds himself back up into the top 5. The battle up front is not quite over, though, as Quapple enjoying the clean air, which is something we may talk about here a little bit with how fast these cars are going around this racetrack. Quapple leading Queen, then Caden Honeycutt in 3rd. And how about give a nod to Chad McCumbee in the season that he has put together, quietly running in the 4th spot as he's under assault from McCarty, and Queen looked to take a peek down into turn number 1 on Carson Quapple.
We said these drivers were going to be going on full attack mode from the drop of the green flag. I think they've proven it so far. Just 5, now 6 laps into this race. Oh, Minnie Tyrell nearly caught the back fender of Landon Pendleton's car as it came out of 4. That was close.
Indeed it was, and Minnie Tyrell was out here a couple of weeks ago, the Dickie Boswell Memorial after North Wilkesboro. His alternator went bad, but was running up in the top 3 of that race. Meanwhile, back up front, 117 laps to go, and we are once again side by side for the race lead. Carson Quapple on the top side, and Queen going to go on by. Quapple says you can have that for now.
All the conversations about it being hard to pass here, throw that out the window. 2 lead changes already as we get this race underway, and Queen is now back to the point. These have been 2 of the best cars all season long as we inch closer to the halfway point in the season, and they are putting on a slugfest at the front of the pack. And here's a former winner alongside of that of Mike Looney. Down to the inside is that of Jonathan Finley. That's an Alpha Prime Racing late model stock car. They got the week off on the Xfinity slate. They decided to put the late model stock together, and here comes Finley charging up the running order.
And they started to go through the motions a couple of weeks ago. Finley came out to East Speedway, unfortunately wasn't able to finish that race because of a mechanical failure. but good to see him out here with Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour. We talked about that battle as here comes a couple of Virginia natives that'll go side by side, and two drivers that are awfully familiar with this racetrack in Tyrell and Pembleton. And by the way, it's a trio of those from the Commonwealth, as Connor Hall is in the mix as well in that new-looking white, silver, and black car. It's a good look there for that 77.
Both of the Chad Bryant Racing cars adorning a new look here tonight, fresh off of the win at Langley for that of Connor Hall. However, not the qualifying run that we would have imagined. Hall is trying to work his way further forward. He's a third car in line. Speaking of new colors, second race for Brandon Pearson, the fourth car in line for that entry for Lee Pulliam Performance. While his teammate leads at the front of the pack, Pierce is running in the 9th spot, continuing to try to work his way further forward, as it appears as though Pembleton may be holding this group up a little bit here as Hall looks to the bottom.
That's the second straight lap. Hall has shown the nose down to the bottom of turn number 3. He gets rejected by Mini Tyrell. Now 5 cars lined up behind the Zero machine of Pembleton. We're kind of seeing what we saw in some of the local competitions, kind of clusters and packs of cars lined up about 5 or 6 rows deep as Tyrell sideways off the corner. May have gotten a shot from Connor Hall, but they keep it together. Now Hall looking to the bottom of the number 81.
Hall not wasting any time trying to work his way further forward. He's to the inside of Tyrell. Look at that car kick out under braking as he tries to bury it down to the inside. A slide by the 77 off the corner, and we're side by side as they go into turn number 1. Connor Hall trying to steer that car with the throttle on the exit of the corner, and he will pick up the spot from Tyrell to move to 7th, while Bobby McCarty muscles his way.
Oh no, Caden Honeycutt is waving out the window, and he may have a flat tire. I think that may be the call from that number 10 Mike Darn Racing Machine, and yes, he is letting the field know after a battle there with Bobby McCarty. A problem for Caden Honeycutt, as he will try to bring it down to the pits. Again, we mentioned it in the local competition, and he stops on the track. He gets a 1-lap penalty. And indeed, the caution flag, the volt battery caution, is out for Caden Honeycutt.
And unfortunately, first off, hats off to that of Honeycutt, even though if a tire is in fact down, it doesn't appear to be obvious from our perspective. We'll have to see what they do when they bring it over there. It certainly looked as though that car just would not turn as it came off of turn number 2. But he was flailing his arm outside the window net of that machine to warn drivers. This was just as Bobby McCarty was trying to make the move here down to the inside for 3rd. And you see McCarty get up to the bottom. No contact made between those two. And it was right here that Honeycutt knew he had a problem and immediately was trying to signal to all involved. And they are under the hood of that car, so it appears as though something may have come undone on the Mike Darn Racing number 10. And let's try to learn more. We'll throw it down to James Pike, who is in the pit area.
Yeah, Eric, they came down to that right front of the car, and they looked at the wheel initially and then immediately popped the hood up as if to see whether or not there might be a little bit more suspension damage. And Caden just threw his steering wheel on the dash, so I suspect there might be a little bit more damage than we initially suspected with Honeycutt's machine. A really, really tough break for him. Top 5 speed throughout practices and qualifying, but looks like this night has gone very sour very quickly for the Mike Darn Racing Machine.
Thank you, James, and tough luck there for Caden Honeycutt, just coming off of a dominating performance at Langley. Wasn't able to grab the win there, but led 94 laps and has just been a pillar of consistency all season long, and pretty much his entire Cars Tour career. You can pretty much look up at the monitor and rest assured that somewhere Honeycutt's probably at least running up in the top 5.
I would have to say, you know, if it wasn't for a little bit of bad luck, Caden Honeycutt would have several wins under his belt, not only on the Cars Tour side of things, but I think also he impressed everybody with his limited opportunities in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. And you can see Caden knew that the pace was there tonight, and you could see the frustration on the driver who came into this night 5th in championship points despite missing a race to run one of those truck events that he had previously planned. So Honeycutt is going to walk off, and we hit the choose cone this time through. And we are going to be 1 lap away from getting this race back underway. And one of the contenders, one of the heavy hitters in that of Caden Honeycutt, out of this race with still 106 laps remaining.
A couple of cars took the opportunity to come down to the service of their crews, one of which was Mason Diaz. Also Jacob Hefner pulled down and made some adjustments on his race car. So those 2 drivers will go to the tail end of the field. But I think looking at the top 5, I think the fastest car that we see so far here tonight is that of Bobby McCarty. He has made several passes up in the top 5, made it look easy, and I think before it's all said and done, we may be talking about that 6th car in Edelbrock victory lane. 106 laps to go. It'll once again be the same front row we had just about 20 laps ago. Queen and Quapple is a big check up there on the inside from Brendan Queen. Remember we saw kind of the same thing back at Florence there, as Queen leads the field. A check up there on the inside, but he will have the race lead and nearly clear of Carson Quapple off of turn number 4, and indeed he is.
Quapple is going to fall right down in the tire tracks of Brendan Queen as they go to turn number 1. McCarty gets a good drive off of turn number 2, looks to the bottom side of the point leader. Quapple's going to give him a lane there on the inside as we see that white puff of smoke. We've seen that a few times out of that Junior Motorsports number 8 fresh off restarts. But McCarty is not able to get up alongside. Carson's still leaving him room.
Indeed he is, and McCarty will not be denied. Simply put, down into turn number 3, he'll go side by side once again with Carson Quapple. Will he yield, or how hard will he fight McCarty? So I tell you what, Quapple doing a masterful job there on the 2nd lane, making that car work, making that job hard. This is what we were talking about with Dominion Raceway, how difficult it can be to pass if you have a good car that is running that outside or middle lane, as that brings Chad McCumbee into the fight here with 102 laps to go.
You can see how fast these cars are rocketing their way around this 4/10 of a mile oval, and you might have to use a little bit of muscle in order to cement a move. But McCarty was able to do so there cleanly. Quapple gets back down, defends the 3rd spot from McCumbee for the moment, as it appears as though Brendan Butterbean Queen is trying to break free. Now that McCarty's in 2nd, we'll see if he can reel in that deficit as Jonathan Finley continues to move up, and a little bit of damage on the nose of Connor Zillish's car.
And that's typical of what we have seen here in Cars Tour competition, is Zilish, a little bit of nose damage that you could see.